this is a really beautiful little model, 1/33rd scale again, from GPM, I've never built from before. It's this Ki-44 Shoki, and really nice, really well rendered design, well thought out, easy to build. When you're all done, it kind of looks like a Holinsky kit, but it's easier to put together. Really nice details on it. It looks like a super neat little model when you're done. It's kind of hard to get in the picture completely, but you can see the overall look of it. It's a small, compact little hot rod, nice little neat airplane. It's got nice renderings on the tops, like all the chipping and the fading. I put ailerons and folded them, or used them so they were a little bit canted, so that it matches what I have in the cockpit. Nice big cannons on the wings, which folded and turned out really nice. Has a full engine on the inside. You can't see it. You could take the cowling off. I ended up gluing it on anyway, just because I like the look of it. Because it's all mottled and very well done, all this green and on the silver looks really pretty, I didn't bother filling and changing all these little rings that go on the cowling. Ordinarily what I do is sand them clean and fill them and prime them and then paint them myself, so you wouldn't have these lines. But the paper is done so well, the artwork, I decided just to leave it as is. Who cares? I think it looks really nice. It does not detract from the finished model. I think it looks super. Looks really nice. I modified the pitot tube a little bit, put a piece of wire on the tip of it so that it looked more realistic. I made the canopy out of the paper that came with it and used it as a mold, and then I threw in some plaster of Paris into the paper mold, and then just vacuum formed my own canopy, and then cut it apart so it could be in the folded or the open position, which is nice. This model is neat. It comes with multiple components. Like you can make all separate control surfaces. You can make control surfaces be integral, so you don't have to put them on. You can make a simple cockpit. You don't have to put the cockpit in if you don't want to. So it gives you lots of options, which is kind of nice for one of these models, especially if you're not sure how well it's going to go. But this would be a good one for people to attempt. There's little details like these little pieces on here. I don't know if you can see them, these little guys. I think these are actuator areas for the butterfly flaps on the original. I thought those would be horrendous to fold and to put on because they're tiny little conical pieces. They fit like a charm. They work great. They look really good. I really surprised myself. The construction is all tab and former, and you've got your I did like I did on my P40. I learned, which is basically put as many of these pieces sort of together up against each other so you got no seam, then put in the formers. I found that that's better than making them former by former and putting the skins on separately. I found that putting as much of the skin together as you can seems to make a better, cleaner look. The antenna is a piece of wire inside, coated around with paper, and then this is easy line elastic aerial, which is what I usually do. One cool design feature on this model, which is something I'd never seen before. Usually, wing fillets are separate. And so what you'll do is you'll put the thing together, the wing will go on, and the fuselage, and then there's a gap down here. And you put this fillet on, fold it, and put it in here. And that works really well. This one was integral, and I thought it was never going to work. So in other words, this part here is all part of the fuselage skin. All this part, and all this part coming down here. This part here is a separate little fillet. That's an actual separate fillet that wraps around. But this piece and this piece, this curve is made, the formers underneath are curved, so they got a concave surface. And so they give you the shape, but you end up with this really nice swooping, delicate shape that comes along here and looks really good. Someone who's very good, like I have a little mess up here, but in general, I thought it wasn't going to work at all. It reminds me of like the 1930s rubber-powered balsa models. They would usually build the formers near the fillets, and they'd actually have the shape of the fillet in the former. So that worked really great, and I was very dubious of that when I started. My only bad portion of it is on this side. Where is it? You can see that I didn't do as nice of a job on this particular piece. You can see that there's a gap here, everything, but it's not horrible. I'm not too upset about it. Oh, while we're here, these exhausts are really cool. People complain all the time about models that the exhausts aren't scale thickness. Well, this is a piece of paper rolled around. You got a nice hole and a nice thin exhaust. You know, it looks great. Cockpit was as the kit designed. I only cut holes, for instance, in the seat. It's sort of perforated holes in a lot of the Japanese seats to lighten them, I guess. And so I cut holes out of there. But other than that, everything's the same. You can't see it, I'm sure, but there's a neat little gun sight on here, reflector sight that's in there. That's really cool. It's got nice underside landing gear. These again are the wheels. The tires are balsa, and you can see I sand a little flat spot in each of them so that it will sit like it's got some weight on it. But it's got, you know, detailed printing on the inside of the wheel wells that looks very three-dimensional, even though it isn't. It's really pretty cool. Nice tail wheel, nice design and look to it. It's open, looks great. I added this little step for the pilot. Actually, it's called for in the plans too. I didn't add that as a new thing. The only thing I did differently on this was I didn't mind having the cowling having these little rings, but I really wanted to have the spinner be clean. So I did, it was a pedal design spinner. It looked okay when I was done, but I knew I could make it cleaner if I filled it and painted it. So I did fill and paint that little guy. Prop blades are really nice. I repainted this whole thing with a brownish red color and masked off little yellow tips and things. It worked fine. But that's the only thing I did differently. The hardest part on this model was this part right here. Oops, you can't really see it. This part right here, coming around this leading edge, because what it has to do is it has to match up with the wheel wells. Right, oops. It has to match up with the wheel wells right here and here, and mine don't, and that's not the kit's fault, that's my fault. This turns out it looks fine, and as long as you don't, you know, display the airplane upside down, no one's going to know. But this is the dirtiest part, and it would have been better if the person putting it together had taken their time and done a little better job of testing. What I should have done is make sure these fit. Like what I did was I put in the wheel wells before I put these pieces on. I probably should have done them at the same time so know where to fit these wheel wells exactly. The other thing is that the plans for the Folio Struts were kind of odd. They actually make them so they can actually fold, or there's supposed to be a piece of wood or a piece of paper rolled that goes from the Folio Strut directly back, and there's a hole in here. I didn't understand what was going on until I was done, but then this was supposed to be put in through that hole so that this whole unit would actually drop down and go up and down if you really desired it, I think. In my case, I just glued it in and, you know, made it solid. Here are these butterfly flaps. I think if you wanted to, you could cut them open and detail them on the inside if you like. But anyway, really nifty little airplane. Pretty thing. Small. Doesn't take up a lot of space on the shelf. Again, first time I built from GPM. I'd build another. It's a recent kit. You know, in terms of paper models, what does it say? 2005. So it's computer designed, etc. Everything fit really quite well. So definitely an airplane that you should consider if you're in the market for a really neat little late war Japanese fighter.